Welcome in, guys. Today we're going to be going over some tips and tricks to get better with Huntress. I'm Joey Potato Salad, a sweaty killer main who plays all killers on DBD. I'm going to be going over a few minor and big tips to have you eventually doing stuff like this.
Doesn't even care, man.
Get fucked! So let's start with the build. The build you'll see me mostly using in this video will be Barbecue and Chili, Nowhere to Hide, Darkness Revealed, and Lethal Pursuer. Although there are many other aura reading perks you can use to get better with Huntress, the perks I use I feel are best for my playstyle, and they do help me the most. Feel free to mix and match to see what works better for you. For add-ons, we'll be going with Glowing Concoction and Wooden Fox. We use these add-ons for extra aura reading when hitting somebody with a hatchet, and getting undetectable status when retrieving hatchets from lockers, which you'll be doing all game, and it works well with Darkness Revealed. This also may stop survivors from seeing a hatchet coming their way from time to time while undetectable. A downside to this build is that you'll have no gem regression at all, and you'll need constant pressure to make up for that. A side note here is that Lethal Pursuer is great for seeing survivors right away and starting that pressure early on. Not to mention the extra 2 seconds of aura reading on every perk you use. So my first tip, guys, is don't worry about losing. You'll most likely be working on hatchet throws at first, and using these perks to figure out different ways to find survivors. Creating constant pressure with this build can be tough without gem regression and lead to games where all the survivors escape if you can't keep people down and on hooks at all times. You'll only get better as time goes on, so don't worry. So right here we have an example of Lethal Pursuer proccing as soon as the game starts, and me being able to catch 2 survivors and get very early pressure on in the game. A quick tip here, guys, is to have patience. Survivors will try their best during chase to dodge hatchets when they think you're going to throw one, especially when they have nowhere to go and no object to get behind to break line of sight. Having patience could lead them to constantly looking behind them, maybe running into a rock or a wall. Wait for the right moment and throw a hatchet. Here, you see me chasing someone. I know they're going to go for that door eventually, so I wait for them to get close enough and get an easy toss at it. A little trick here, guys, when you're in a chase with someone in a loop that you can throw hatchets over, make sure you step back a little bit. Doing this will make sure you get a hatchet over that obstacle and not hit the obstacle itself. So we all know with most killers, you like to loop as tight as possible with the survivor and catch up to them to get a hit. But with Huntress, if you can get that hatchet over an obstacle, you do need to take a step back. Taking that small step back and hitting them with a hatchet can be a big difference in ending that chase early. You'll notice here in this next video, if we freeze, you'll see that I'm stepping way back to hit this Steve with this hatchet. If I was standing there, it would not work out. I would end up hitting the barrels in front of me instead of getting the shot on. Which leads me into my next tip here is learning the hatchet's hitbox. Once you get a good feel for the hitbox, you'll realize you can hit hatchets on survivors that doesn't seem like it's going to be a direct hit, or even hit at all. This is great for throwing hatchets over objects survivors may think they're safe behind, even when they're crouching behind it. So during this chase here, you'll see I get a free hit on the survivor through the window, and I already know they're going to try their best to break line of sight and get behind this object right here. So I'm going to throw over it and make sure I hit their hitbox. So this example here, I proc Nowhere to Hide and get an easy view on a target. I pretend I don't see them and then go in for the first hit. As they run, I know they're going to make their way up these stairs, so I load up, step back, and go for the hitbox. Which leads us into our next tip, survivor pathing. Learning how a survivor thinks and moves is key to throwing snipes from across the map and up close. Aura reading perks will help a lot with learning the path a survivor usually takes in many scenarios. But another thing I always tell people, if you want to get better with a killer, play survivor. Learn what a survivor does by being one, or at least watching someone that's good with survivor. Same goes for getting better at survivor. Play killer. You'll notice that you do way better against a killer you play a lot compared to a killer that you don't play that much. So in this scenario, we get Darkness Revealed to proc. I see where the survivor's running, which obviously helps way more with getting survivor pathing down. Glowing Concoction helps even more with getting more aura reading out of it, where I'm able to throw another hatchet over some obstacles and hit the survivor for a down. Learning survivor pathing is one of the biggest tips I can provide at getting better at Huntress. Don't worry about missing any of these shots or wasting hatchets. You'll only learn from trial and error, and that goes for almost everything you're learning here today about this killer. Here are many examples of me knowing the path that a survivor is taking, whether it's with the help of an aura reading perk or after an aura reading perk expires. Just knowing where they're going helps a lot more than anything else. I fucking DCed! Here's a good example of survivor pathing on RPD. I know the survivors are going to be going this way, and this happens on 2 separate occasions. I like to bring up a little side tip here, and that is knowing when to best reload your hatchets. I try to reload my hatchets to proc Darkness Revealed all the time, especially when not in chase. Even when in chase, if you know a survivor is in a certain spot where it's going to take them some time to get around the loop that you're in, especially on the corner of a map, you may have a better time just loading up more hatchets and proccing Darkness Revealed and getting undetectable. So in this scenario here, we have one survivor who's already escaped and one on hook. I body block the hook for a second to get a quick hatchet in. I get the down, but someone does come in with 4 of the people, which obviously doesn't work this way anymore. I'm able to get a hit and get a second hit by having some patience. Then, I know the survivor's path they're taking to the exit gate, and I throw a random hatchet and happen to get them. All this does is create a lot more pressure and end up giving me a 3k instead of a 1k. Another tip for you guys is to use W. And what I mean by using W is using the letter W in the word throw as a crosshair. You'll see here that I know a survivor is at the exit gate. I first bring up the W right under the survivor and then throw to make sure I got a straight shot. You will need to learn though how to charge these shots depending on how far away the survivor is, which all comes with trial and error. This also leads me to a short talk about orbitals. I'm not going to get too much into orbitals. We do have a guide on them, how to orbital in under 2 minutes, which I'll link in the description below. Just know that using the W in the word throw is part of that learning orbitals process. And after doing this enough, you won't even need to line up the shot with W. You'll just be able to do it on your own automatically. Which brings us to our biggest tip of all. Practice. All these tips and tricks you saw today aren't learned overnight. You need to practice a lot to do all the things you learned here, including charging the hatchet shots to determine the speed of your throws and how far a hatchet will travel. Huntress is one of the easiest killers to understand, but one of the hardest to master. You'll spend a lot of time learning how to maintain pressure as Huntress, but I will say, at least in my opinion, there's nothing more satisfying than hitting a crazy snipe with Huntress. If you have any questions or feel any tips I missed here, please let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos like this. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you next time.